Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. I was going to start this stream at 7 o'clock, but I decided to start it early so that I could end early. I am, well, two things. I had a doctor's appointment really, really early in the morning, which required some preparation. And I'm also going back into the office now. So it's important now to get to bed, to eat, and to get to bed at a good hour. So I decided to start this about a half hour early, and perhaps I can end a half hour early. Let me make sure I can see myself on YouTube. Whoever that is watching me, please smash that like button. Let me know who's here. Oh, well, they were here. Let me make sure I can see myself on YouTube. Okay. Thank you to whoever gave Thank you to whoever gave me that like before the stream started. Whoever is out there in viewerland, please let me know who you are. This is going to be another. Wow, we are at the end of Black History Month, so that's why that's 2 months. That's 2 months down in 2025. Um, so this has flown by pretty quickly. So Black History Month ends on Friday, February 28th. So I have a meeting tomorrow for my condominium complex. So I decided to squeeze in one more Black History piece. Before the stream started, I was thinking that I was thinking about my brand, and I think my brand now it's more commentary, more interviewing, more asking questions, a little speculation. And tonight I'm going to ask the question, what music would Quincy Jones have made in today's climate? A final Black History Month 2025 stream. On the other side of the intro, I'm going to tell you about where the idea came from, and I'm going to put some pieces out there, and then I'm going to wrap the stream up. So with that, I will play the intro, and then I'll jump in, and hopefully I'll be off in an hour, unless the chat gets exciting and I feel compelled to drop the link to let some of you guys come up and give your 2 cents. But for now, I'm going to try to wrap up in an hour. Hey, who's there? Who? Let me know who's there. Shout yourselves out. Say hello. And no matter how long you stay, please smash that like button. All right, I'm going to see you on the other side of the intro. So, where did this topic come from? So, I'm going to admit that because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. Black History Month 2025. It might not be the Black history that you like or want to hear about, but it's Black history nonetheless. So, where did this topic come from? So, I'm going to admit that because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. All right. Black History Month 2025, the shortest month out of the year. Valentine's Day is within this month, and I think they shoved something else within this month as well. But it's almost over. It'll be over on Friday. And yeah, there we are. So this is the final stream this theme for this month, for this year, though I suspect I will do elements of this throughout the year. So a quick recap about what I did for Black History Month in terms of live streams for 2025. In case you missed it, I did give Kevin Samuels his flowers at the beginning of the month to start the month off. So his name keeps coming up, even when you don't bring his name up. And I thought it was important to discuss his legacy and what he meant for both sides of the gender line. So that was to kick the month off. Next up, I hosted Passport OG. I think most of my subs know who that is, but in case you're not familiar with him, he gives commentary. He lives abroad in Southeast Asia, and he gives commentary on the Black community, but also the state of Black relationships. And he encourages men who can to potentially go overseas to find partners and mates, but also learning the language and learning the culture before you go. Okay. And doing so responsibly. So in other words, every man who goes overseas is not of the and I don't want to smear Austin Holloman. I don't want to smear him, but he's kind of the face of it, at least for Black men. But Passport OG, we had a long discussion about being Black Gen Xers and well, the dating climate and what it's like living overseas. So he and I talked about a bunch of different things, and then yeah, I think it was Sunday's live stream. I'm losing track of the days here. Sunday's live stream was with a gentleman named Curtis Schoon from Schoon TV. Okay, and Curtis is he wears several hats: entrepreneur, writer, content creator, philanthropist. He's been involved in the entertainment industry. He created his own documentary, Black, White, and Blue. And he's a free thinker, unapologetically masculine. He's unapologetically masculine. And we had a nice long conversation on Sunday about a myriad of topics. So those are the three guests and topics that I had for 2025. So I'm going to wrap this up with this live stream here, and it's entitled "What Music Would Quincy Jones Have Made in Today's Climate?" A final Black History Month stream, a final Black History Month 2025 stream. So where did this come from? So it actually came from something in 2024, and I was watching a documentary on Quincy Jones. Okay, for those of you who don't know, I'm gonna pull him up in a second to go over just briefly his life and his discography. But Quincy Jones was a classic Black and highly accomplished Black music producer. Okay, so he was a musician, and towards the end of his life, he spent most of his time producing other artists. Several notable works, which I'll discuss. But there were things about Quincy that I did not know about his life. Particularly, I saw some interesting things about his children, which I'm going to show. And then I started downloading on Spotify. I downloaded 3 of Quincy's records from my lifetime that I was quite familiar with. And I was listening to those records and I was thinking, okay, these records were made for their time, okay, in the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s. But if Quincy were to make a compilation today, like the ones he made, what would they be about and how would they sound? Okay, what would the content of those records be? Because each of those records reflected what was happening at that time, musically and also socially to some degree. Please smash that like button. Let me know who's here. I see people are hopping in and out. There are certainly more saucy conversations going on in the YouTube streets than this. So, Quincy Jones. Who is Quincy Jones? Let me refresh this really quickly. Okay, there are people working out there. Okay, everybody, please smash that like button if you haven't. If you're gonna, even if you leave really quickly, please at least give the stream a like. That would help me out with the engagement a great deal. So Quincy Jones, who is Quincy Jones? Who was Quincy Jones? So I'm gonna pull up this description of him. This is an overview. Let me shrink that. Okay. So those are images of Quincy Jones right there. He was born in 1933, March 14th. So he's either a Pisces or a Aries because both of my parents are they were born in March. So he's right at the cutoff there. And he died November 3rd, 2024. So he just died. That might have been why that documentary was on that night that I watched it. So he was born in 1933 and he died in 2024. So he was 91 years old. Just a brief blurb about Quincy Jones. I'm going to read this overview. Let me blow this up. Yeah. So Quincy Delight Jones Jr., I didn't know he was a junior, is a music icon and American record producer, composer, arranger, conductor, trumpeter, and band leader. His work has reshaped the music industry, and he's made a significant impact on the business world as well. In the 1960s, Jones became the first Black executive at a major record label where he was appointed as vice president at Mercury Records. Jones has also been involved in social issues. Well, one person decided to make themselves known. The Snowman. Snowman, how are you? Thank you for being the first commenter in my chat. Hopefully not the last. I hope you're well. I know you were a little bit under the weather as of late. Thank you for letting me know that you got my book and also that you started reading it. That's the most important thing. You could pass these things out and people could buy them, but whether or not they read them, that's a different thing. Okay, so that's Quincy Jones. That's an overview, but what I will say is that I have two vivid memories of this man from my childhood. Probably the first one was Michael Jackson's Thriller. Okay. And for my childhood, Michael Jackson's Thriller was one of the biggest records of my childhood. Okay. That was for me, that was Michael Jackson at his peak. There was the Snowman, you're from Indiana, the Jacksons are from Gary. So if you think about Michael Jackson's career, there was the Jackson 5, the Motown years, and then they left Motown and went to CBS. Jermaine stayed behind, and then Michael struck out on his own with Off the Wall, and then Thriller. And Thriller, everybody was going crazy over Thriller, but the one name you heard, when you listened to who went into the making of the Thriller album, the one name you heard was Quincy Jones. Okay. You heard that name over and over and over again. Quincy Jones, Quincy Jones, Quincy Jones, Quincy Jones helped Michael Jackson. Quincy Jones produced the Thriller record. Quincy Jones, Quincy Jones, Quincy Jones. And I think he was also involved in Off the Wall. So that was the first, my first inkling of him. But then the next inkling was his own records. Okay, so in terms of his discography, let me pull this up. In terms of his discography, one of the albums that marked my childhood was this record right here, The Dude. Okay, so that's an African statue there on the cover. That's who the record is named after. It's named after that. Well, no, that's the image for the record. But it's an African statue. Okay, and then so there was the Dude, and then going into the 80s, towards the late 80s, there was another notable Quincy Jones record, which was this one. Back on the Block. Some of my aunts and uncles, well, they had the Dude, but Back on the Block, I think my aunt had this one as well. And I dubbed this, and I was listening to this one all the time, Back on the Block. And then in the late 90s, when I was an undergraduate, Quincy dropped another record, which was this one, Q's Juke Joint. Okay. And each of those records were a sample of the time. There was a sample of that particular era musically. Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to go over these records just briefly in a moment, but just a couple of weeks ago, I was driving around the DMV, and I decided to download each of these records off of Spotify. And I realized when I was listening, I listened to The Dude, I listened to Back on the Block, and then I listened to the Juke Joint, and I realized, wow, so he was making records, he was making these anthologies that were representative of each particular era. Okay, so let's go back to The Dude. So if you listen to The Dude, I don't know if there are any music lovers out there. I don't know if you guys, whoever's watching, I don't know if you like music or what your sound is or what you listen to. I like a little bit of everything. But when you listen to The Dude, I'm going to go over some of the songs here, starting with let's see. Yeah, it looks like there were 9 tracks on here. Please smash that like button. Let me know who's here. If Snowman was here, he was here. I don't know who else is watching, but let me know who's here. But definitely please smash that like button no matter how long you stay. So all these songs, I Know Karita, The Dude, Just Once, Bet You Wouldn't Hurt, Something Special, Razzmatazz, 100 Ways, Velas, and Turn on the Action. Many of these songs had a funk sound. I don't know who's Snowman. I don't know if you're still there, but do you know what a funk sound is? Okay, so that's the early 80s. So you're coming off the 70s. So you have a funk sound. You have a fast moving bass, a hard rapid dance sound. A good number of those songs on that record had that funk sound. Okay, it was very distinct, very unique to the late 70s, early 80s. When you think about the funk sound, think about the Brothers Johnson, think about the Gap Band, think about, I don't know if you could throw Sly and the Family Stone in there. Who are some other funk bands? Yeah, but it was that funk sound that record was expressing that. Slick Rick, thank you for stopping through. Slick Rick says Rod Temperton, a white guy from the UK, wrote a bunch of great and classic songs for Quincy Jones. Okay, thank you for that, Slick Rick. I appreciate that. Okay, so that record had a lot of funk sounds. And George Clinton. Okay, so there, yeah, the P Funk. They were known for their costumes and their unique sound. But the dude also had one or two notable love songs on it, such as 100 Ways. And I believe that was James Ingram who sung that one. That was a love song. Ask her today, find 100 ways. Okay. And I also think Something Special was a love song, and I think Bet You Wouldn't Hurt was a love song as well. And then on most of his records, there was usually a smooth instrumental groove. On many of his records, there was a smooth instrumental groove. Paul Wilson, thank you for stopping through. So that was the dude. Okay, and my aunts and uncles had that. I couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old, but I have vivid memories of that record. So let's fast forward to Back on the Block. Okay. Back on the Block. Back on the Block, that record was released. And you guys keep letting me know what you think about any of this. Back on the Block was released. I'm not seeing the 1989. So I was 13 years old in 1989. Back on the Block, immediately, the first song in the prologue and the second track, it was about hip hop. Okay, so hip hop, early hip hop, conscious hip hop, lyricists, hard beats. This record was acknowledging the hip hop movement. Okay, and even on that first track, Back on the Block, Quincy had Ice-T on there. He had Kool Moe Dee on there. He had Big Daddy Kane on there. So this record was about acknowledging the hip hop movement. Okay. Notable songs. Okay, so you had the prologue. That was a rap prologue. Back on the Block. I don't go for that. I'll Be Good to You. I'm gonna come back to I'll Be Good to You with Ray Charles, and I don't know who sung that song with him. But I'll Be Good to You, The Verb to Be, We Be Doing It, The Places You Find Love. The Places You Find Love, that's a love song. Let's see, Jazz Corner of the World. Okay, Birdland, that was a tribute to the jazz musicians. Okay. Septembro, again, I told you that on many of his records, he has these smooth instrumental, these smooth, intimate instrumental grooves. Septembro, I think that was called a Brazilian wedding song that was also used in Boys in the Hood when Trey lost his virginity. Okay. A One Woman Man. Okay. Number 12 was Tomorrow with Tevin Campbell. Okay. That song, I was driving around listening to that song, and that song really took me back because I was listening to that song all the time when I got the record. I was listening to that song. That was Tevin Campbell's introduction to the world. That was a powerful track. Okay. And then the last song, so you had the prelude to The Garden, and then you had The Secret Garden, which is a love song. That's baby making music. So I think that had El DeBarge on it, James Ingram, Barry White, Okay, that was a love song. That was a hardcore love song. Okay, so in each of Quincy's records, he has these love songs, these ballads. So let's go back to the Ray Charles "I'll Be Good to You" song. Let's see. Who sang that song with Ray Charles? Give me a second, everybody. Slick Rick says, let's see. Paul Wilson says, I was just going to ask if the Brothers Johnson were still performing with Quincy Jones back then. I don't know. Slick Rick says Rod Temperton was a writer on Back on the Block. Slick Rick, keep it coming, man. Thank you. Let's get some synergy here. Thank you. Thank you for that. I have a small crowd here, so let's see. I'll Be Good to You, Ray Charles. Oh, okay. So that was Ray Charles and Shaka Khan. Shaka Khan. I'll Be Good to You. But when I was driving around, and that's a good song. That's a good song. But I was listening to some of the lyrics in that song, and in that song, Ray Charles says he's expressing his love for his woman, but he starts going on and on and on about, I'll open up my wallet, Visa, MasterCard, I'll pay for whatever you want. I'll run up my balance. I'll, X, Y, and Z. Any of you out there, are you familiar with that song? I'll Be Good to You, starring, sung by Ray Charles and Shaka Khan. Are any of you familiar with that song? Have you heard those lyrics? Especially when Ray starts going on about, I'll buy you whatever you want. Visa, MasterCard, whatever you want. And then when they're singing together, they start going on about, we've been together for so very long. I'd hate to break up our happy home. Okay. And I was listening to that song and thinking, what world is this from? What world is this from? It was from a different era. Okay. People were still making love songs back then. And I think people were a little bit more in love back then in general. Slick Rick says, Rod Temperton was the writer on Secret Garden. And then he says Temperton was Jones's secret weapon. Well, Temperton was also on Thriller. He was also on Thriller as well. Okay. And I think Temperton wrote Lady in My Life. Is that right, Slick Rick? I think he also wrote Lady in My Life, which was one of Michael Jackson's greatest hits. Okay. He says Temperton was Jones's secret weapon. Temperton wrote Always and Forever, which is a certified classic amongst the Black population. I think he wrote Lady in My Life as well for Michael Jackson. Okay. So this Ray Charles song stood out to me. And when he talked about opening up his wallet the way that he was willing to do, that reminded me of a word that's in our Urban Dictionary now that wasn't in our Urban Dictionary in the early 1990s. Do you all know what that word is? Anybody? When he talked about opening up his wallet, using his Visa and his MasterCard on her, getting her whatever she wanted, that sounded like something from our urban lexicon and our Urban Dictionary from today. Begins with an S. There's a hint. We'll play Wheel of Fortune. Yes, Slick Rick, there you go. It sounded, listening. Black Nerd Talks. He's here. Listening to that, yes. Listening to that song, whoever wrote that, it sounded a lot like simping. Simping today if I could think of a textbook definition for simping for today, for the people who don't know what that word means, simping means just laying it all out there for your lady, spending up all your money, not having any boundaries for yourself, not sticking up for yourself, just laying it all out there for her. But I'm saying this to say that now listening to that song, it sounds like that's what Ray was doing in that song. It's a brilliant song. The way we, how's the hook go? The way we love and the way we lie. Makes me feel like we're worth a try. I'll be good to you. I'll be good to you. I'm butchering that. But the point is, that song was made for its time. Okay. And you're seeing today, you're seeing men kind of on the lookout for whether or not they're simping or not, and not wanting to simp and be what Ray Charles described in that song. Okay. And again, going back to Secret Garden, that was a hardcore love song. That was baby making music. I don't know if they're still making love songs like that anymore. Barry White, I'll take good care of you. That's what a man is supposed to do. And I'll be there for you all the time. Lay your hair down. Let me get you in the mood. Come on, girl. Let me lead you into the garden. El DeBarge, I want to read your mind and know your deepest feelings. I want to make it right for you. I want to know you. That type of thing. Now, what was James Ingram's verse in that? When I finish the stream, I'm gonna remember all the lyrics perfectly. Let's see. Anyway, that song, you have all of those kinds of lyrics in that song, The Secret Garden. It's I mean, and ideally, that's the kind of our relationship you would want with your woman, is what's described in that song. I'm trying to think of the James Ingram lyrics in there, because he had some real poetry as well. Let's see. I want to read your mind, your deepest feelings. I want to make it right for you. James Ingram. I've got a melody that we can sing together. I've got the secret key to you. Let's make music, harmonizing ecstasy. That type of thing. That's what those guys were singing in those songs. But do we still see that today? I'm going to read some of your comments. Okay, Slick Rick, I'm not going to post that. Okay, I'm going to change the word. Slick Rick says R&B equals cookie worshiping music. Paul Wilson says simp, think all day, sucker by Stevie Wonder. Black Nerd talks simp definition, unequivocally worshiping women, denial of oneself, and being an overall yes man to her for the sake of the simple approval of being in her presence. And then he says, I think the decades of simp music is why R&B is suffering now. Have you looked at old music videos like Take Me As I Am by Mary J. Blige? The men in that were cartoonish as far as stereotypes. I've not seen that, but I'll tell you what. I was watching a documentary last night on After 7. How many of you guys remember After 7? my introduction to After Seven, two of those guys were Babyface's brothers. And Babyface, all of his records, As Soon As I Get Home, Whip Appeal, that's what Babyface wrote. He wrote nothing but music like that. But my first introduction to After Seven was Ready or Not. And I had a crush on a girl in the 8th grade, I think it was either the 7th or the 8th grade. And do you guys remember the opening lyrics for Ready or Not by After Seven? I'll give you the sun. I'll give you the rain. I'll give you the mountains. I'll give you the world. In all that you need for. Girl, I'll love you more than you could know. And that's for sure. I'll climb the highest hill, cross the widest seas. Nothing will discourage me. And I'll pray that you will be. And I pray that you will be with me. And I pray that you will be. I pray that you will be always there for me forevermore. Ready or not, I'll give you everything. Okay. That's the music of that era. Okay. Let's take a look at the Accused Juke Joint. I'm already at 30 minutes. Thank you guys for coming in and hanging out with me here. I know this isn't the Juke Joint. So this was the mid 90s. So this progressed a little bit further into hip hop's evolution. Accused Juke Joint. So this was a little more hip hop. And it also called back to some older classic records. Okay, so the Juke Joint intro, Let the Good Times Roll, Cool Joe, Mean Joe, that was a callback to old, I think an old jazz record. You Put a Move on My Heart, to Mia, that was a nice track. Rock With You, Brandy and Heavy D. Moody's Mood for Love. Okay, Brian McKnight and Rochelle Farrell were in there. Stomp, that was a callback. You had a young Shaquille O'Neal on there. The Juke Joint reprise. Do Nothing Till You Hear From Me from Phil Collins. Is It Love That We're Making? Is It Love That We're Missing? Heaven's Girl, that had R. Kelly, Aaron Hall, and Ronald Isley on it, I believe. Stuff like that. That was a callback to a 1970s hit. Slow Jams. Okay, this one had an all-star cast. Barry White, Babyface, SWV. Okay, who else was on there? Babyface. Let's look it up. I don't want to click on it because I don't want to. Okay, so Barry White, Babyface, Tamia, and I think SWV was in that as well. So the point I'm getting at is that his records were laced with love songs. And do we see love songs like that today? Do we hear love songs like that today? Does love exist today like it did in those songs? I don't know. I think sometimes that those songs were written for that era. And going back to the question of the stream, if he were going to make a compilation album today, what would it sound like? Would it sound like that? Would it have a trap sound on it? Would it have Glorilla, Meg Thee Stallion, Sexy Red? Would it have music about Dusty Ninjas? Okay. Would it have songs about not settling? Would it have songs about not going 50-50? Okay. What if he were to make a record today, if he were still alive and if he were to make another compilation today, what would be on that record. Please smash that like button if you haven't. I'm going to move towards the end of this stream, but there was something else I noticed about Quincy Jones from that documentary. So Quincy had 7 children. I was originally thinking of making this stream asking the question, was Quincy Jones the first passport bro? But I think most of the mothers of his children, with the exception of one, most of them were from the United States. Okay, so that didn't fit. But Quincy's children, I didn't know this. All of his children are biracial. Okay, so Quincy was from Chicago. Okay, I don't think he came from a stable home, but he moved to Seattle. That's where he really took off as a musician. But he seemed to really like white women. So his daughter, so he has this daughter here, Rashida Jones, Kidada Jones, Quincy Jones III. It looks like he had one son. Jolie Jones Levine, okay, Kenya Kinsky Jones, and Martina Jones, and Rachel Jones. So I thought that was interesting. All of his kids were all of his kids are, because they're all still alive. All of his kids are biracial. That for me, that surprised me. I would have thought that well, I was surprised that all of his kids were biracial. So okay, I'm gonna show 2 videos. Going back and asking the question, what, because his anthologies reflected the times. What would one of his anthologies reflected today with what's going on today? Okay, I'm going to show a video from a younger guy right here in the DMV. So he's probably a millennial or a Gen Zer, because he's about 10 to 15 years younger than me. He makes content about dating here in DC. Okay, he didn't ask me to make this. I watch his content sometimes, but I thought he made a recent video that I thought would fit well. Slick Rick. Oh boy. Slick Rick says, okay, Black Nerd Talks, can you expound upon this? I think that, or maybe I'll drop the link if I finish early so you can come up and tell us. But he says, I think the decades of synth music is why R&B is suffering now. Have you looked at, okay, I already read that one. Slick Rick says, Vanity told me she was a nasty girl. Madonna said it's a material world. Gwen said you have to have a job. Yeah, those were all in the 80s too. Janet said diamonds are a girl's best friend and not you ninjas. Also, what have you done for me lately? Slick Rick says that was alcohol, heroin, and the crack era. Also, women were talking a lot of ish in their songs back in the 80s. You know what, Slick Rick, that's a good point. So maybe this whole topic is moot. But since it's focusing on Quincy Jones, maybe it's not. Black Nurse Talk says it says something that they're all biracial, but not sure what it means. And this is why I started laughing. Because Slick Rick said Quincy Quincy had a no Keisha zone. A no Keisha zone. Good one, Slick Rick. Very, very good. Very, very good. Okay. So this gentleman, he's a younger guy. You know, so what you're hearing about, you're not hearing about it you are hearing about it in the mainstream news that there's a critical mass of men who are no longer approaching ladies. Okay. And the question is why. That has societal ramifications. Ron Wills just made a really good video on Monday morning about the changes we're seeing in society and how those changes are going to affect other things. So if you have men not approaching, you're going to have fewer couples. That's going to lead to fewer babies. But the question is why? And would Quincy have made a song about this? So this gentleman's name is Canon Corey. I'm going to play a little bit of this, and then we're going to wrap up with George Fraser and his prophecy about low Black marital rates, and then I'm going to wrap the stream up. So I'm going to play a little bit of this, and then we're going to wind things down. Slick Red, you're a bad boy, man. You're a bad boy. Okay, this one. Okay, so in presenting this, I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm not telling anyone not to date in DC. This is his brand, but I think it's with my brand reporting on the times and reporting on what's going on, I thought it was appropriate to share this in this particular stream. If you guys want to go over and follow him, you can follow him. You could sub his channel. But fair use, Corey. Fair use. You might see me interview him at some point here about his content and what he's experiencing. Fair use.
I forgot I had my do-rag on. A lot of people had a lot to say about the do-rags the other day. Do-rags are still a thing, okay? We may not wear it out in public, but if you want your hair to lay down like this, there's no better tool. Okay, now before we get too deep off into the topic, I have a question. Why is it, and anybody can answer this, but fellas, I'm really kind of talking to y'all, but why does it seem like the women who are like the most attractive women, as far as like when you see them appearance-wise, why is it that they always have the most messed up personalities? Like they always got the most baggage and the craziest stuff going on. And then, of course, you don't want to date them because once you find out that they got all this stuff going on or they haven't been doing anything with their life, you're like, no. But then you will have all these other women in your life that have these great personalities. Are going to treat you like the king that you are, and that the love that you're willing to give them is going to be reciprocated throughout your entire relationship. But the only caveat to it is that they're just not attractive. They just don't stimulate you visually. And that is one of the things that I felt like I've learned this weekend in particular that has like baffled me about like the difference between men and women. But it definitely goes into what I'm basically about to talk about, which is like how men are giving up on women.
So, okay, first of all, I'm not a dating coach. I'm not a dating person. I'm not telling people what to do here. We're just capturing the times. And I think what he just described, I think that's something both genders deal with. You want to be attracted. You want to be attracted to your person, and also you want them to have a personality that you can be around. And the two don't always go together. Okay, fair use.
I feel like men we're giving up for so many reasons, but one of the main reasons is like we know that we haven't been able to find a balance in what's going on in today's society. It's like the balance is we want to be attracted to who we're with, but we also want them to treat us well. And when you talk about like a woman treating a man well, like I feel like that's one of the most taboo subjects as far as like so many people have different definitions on what they think a woman's role should be in a relationship as far as like what it means to treat a man well. Half the time, we never talk about women treating men well. We always talk about a man supposed to be treating a woman well. What is the man doing for the woman? What is the man doing to and for the woman all the time? But how often do we talk about what the woman is doing for the man? Who is she to him? Does she respect him as a person? Does she actually care about how he's feeling and what's going on in his life? Is she there for him? Is she trying to make his life better too? I'm just saying, we're all human beings. We're not robots.
So that's I think that's a question a lot of gentlemen are asking themselves today. And that's a flip. That's a flip from the music I just talked about. Okay. And it's asking, well, hey, how am I going to be treated? What am I getting out of this? This is so far removed from the after 7 ready or not type of thing. Okay. Fair use, fair use.
And so to be a man in 2025, and these are pretty much like the things that are happening. You can't find someone who's going to treat you well and look good. And then when you find someone who treats you well, more than likely they don't look good. It's like, is it like the only reason why a woman would even be nice to a man is because she knows she doesn't have a large dating pool to choose from? Is that what it is? I don't know. It sounds like I'm about to bash women. I'm not trying to bash anybody, but I'm just stating the obvious of what men will never really say out loud, you know, from deep within their minds to women, because, you know, they're afraid of, I guess, never getting any for the rest of the time that they exist on this planet. But I don't give a f. Is what it is. So are we as men really giving up on women? I think it seems to be a slowly moving train that is possibly headed in that direction. We ain't about to turn gay now. Let's get that understood. It's not that we're saying we're giving up on women and about to choose something else. We're just saying we're giving up on our relationships.
So keep in mind, everybody, this gentleman is not in the manosphere. Okay, so this is outside of that sector of YouTube. Okay, so this is happening in real time outside of those demonized sectors of YouTube. Fair use, fair use.
We're giving up on marriage, those type of things, because it's like, if we can't even enjoy the process of just the courtship part, then how the heck will we ever want to get to the marriage part? I saw this video the other day on Instagram where this guy was responding to how women are mad that men don't approach them anymore and not chasing after them. And the guy was like, why would men chase a bill? Like, why would anybody chase a bill? Like, if a man sees you and all you're gonna come with is just like basically shelling out money all the time, like that's all that you can tell that woman sees you as, is just a wallet with legs, basically, then why would I want to go for that? Why would I want that in my life? People don't go out here trying to find the biggest bill they can think of just to specifically drag it into their life because it looks pretty. It don't work. And then there's another guy on social media.
I thought that was an interesting consideration. How much is this going to cost me? Okay, so going back to the Ray Charles lyric, you know, I'll use my Visa, my MasterCard, my Discover. You know, I'll carry your bags for you. Whatever it is he says in that song, this is a very different way of thinking than that. This is, okay, can I afford this? How much is this going to cost me? And then it also begs the question, do relationships cost more now than they did back in the 1980s and when Quincy Jones made those records?
Why don't you own apartment buildings? Seriously, why don't you own these big apartment buildings?
That talks about how only broke men think about some of the things that I'm telling you guys right now in this video. And if 6 figures is broke, then I guess I'm a broke guy. I don't make 7 yet, but I'm definitely making 6. And I care about all the things that I'm talking about right now, so I don't know what to tell you. However, there does seem to be hope. I have been finding a couple videos that are made by women, actually, where women are agreeing like, hey, you know, it's time to step up as women, because women are mad that guys aren't approaching, that we don't want relationships, we definitely don't want marriage right now. So they're asking the question, what do they need to do? And I guess that is kind of like where we want the culture to be right now, as far as like we want the mentality or y'all's mentality to be in a space where we want you to start thinking about what it is that you should be doing. And if you have arrived to that moment in life and you like truly mean it right now, then I would like to reward you by giving you some of those answers from a guy's perspective. One thing that I would say a woman should be doing is, step 1, probably working on yourself. As far as like, you should be in the gym. I feel like everybody, if you have the ability to be in the gym or if you're alive and you can work out in some type of way, you should be doing it. So like, you should be dedicating at least 5 days a week to working out and doing something that's going to burn calories and keep your body in a state of trying to improve itself versus just sitting around your desk job all the time and getting mad because your clothes don't fit and buying just bigger clothes versus going to the gym and buying a better body, if that makes sense.
I'm going to let this go a little bit further. I think there's another point he makes here that I thought was really, really on point. Black Nerd Talk says, I encourage the young men and boys I mentor that they should learn to regularly interact with women without romantic / sexual expectations. Okay.
Secondly, you should start to take time out to care about the general interest of whatever guy that you're interested in your life. You should be interested in understanding and caring about what he has going on, because I guarantee you, if that guy really likes you the way you want him to, he's going to care about what you have going on in your life. He's going to ask you questions. He's going to listen. And it would be nice for you to give it back because, you know, the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated, right? Shout out to Starbucks, by the way. Now, getting men to approach you, I think maybe might need to be a whole separate video to like dive deep into it. But I will touch on it for a second because I do have a friend. Shout out to my friend Nia. Y'all have seen her on my channel a few times. And she has told me repeatedly that guys are just not approaching. I even gave her some tips. And for some reason, she really did kind of make me feel bad for a second. Like guys, and it's not that Nia's an ugly person or anything like that. So it makes no sense why guys aren't approaching. But I can say this. When I was much younger, I'm 35 now. When I was much younger, and I was like, late teenage years, early 20s. I could say that approaching women used to feel like it was expected. It used to feel like, you know, they expect and kind of want to be approached.
Okay. This is I'm dating myself here. He's 13 years younger than me. So this is a gen. No, he'd be a millennial. He's a millennial. Okay. So again, everybody, this is just a snapshot from a millennial of what's happening out here today. And I thought it was a nice juxtaposition versus what I talked about in terms of the music Quincy Jones produced. Fair use.
You know, that's how you felt as a guy in the younger years. And then something happened. I don't know what was going on in the world. I don't know if it was the music or the economy or what started to be a shift. Maybe it was women trying to fight for equal rights in the world as far as like equal pay and stuff like that. But the mentality of women started to shift, as in like they started to really clown men who were trying to approach them because they were independent and they didn't want guys to try to be all in their face. They're focused on their careers. They're focused on all these things. And it spread not only from like the work community, but into like the social communities. Like for example, when's the last time you went to like a nightclub and you seen men and women dancing with each other?
Okay. I thought that was an interesting point because I think when I was younger, we started seeing less of that at clubs, at parties, at gatherings, you know, men and women dancing together. And I started seeing groups of women dancing together. And then the guys, you kind of stand there like, well, what do we do? And you see lots and lots of ladies who are just going out to hang out with themselves, just to hang out together and party together and dance together and say, well, hey, I just want to come out and be with my friends. Okay. And so I think for the boomers, they would all go out and dance. The men would dance with the women. And so it makes sense why someone like my father would always want to go out and dance with the women. Okay. And for me and for us, it was kind of like, you know, we're just going to chill here. And if someone shows us love, we'll do it. But for someone like my father, it was always about going and getting one woman, and dancing with her, because I think that's what they did in his day. But things have changed and evolved. I'm going to play this last point, and then I'm going to go to the George Fraser video that I'm going to wrap this up. You guys keep letting me know what you think there in the chat about any of this. Fair use, fair use.
In a American culture, not like, you know, if you go to like a Caribbean fest or anything like that. I feel like that's like one of the only cultures that still has men and women dance together. But like the normal American culture, like if you go to like the hottest club or the hottest whatever in your area, and you're going there to have a good time, and there's a song that comes on, what you're going to see in general is a bunch of women dancing with themselves. And if you just look around when that moment happens, you'll see all the guys just standing there with a cup in their hand, just staring. Like, what are we supposed to do?
This is what Ivy League universities use.
Okay, I think that's a good place to stop that one. Slick Rick says, number one, the economy is changing. The end of DEI and government cuts will have a negative impact on women. It will force some of them to find a man. Interesting. Let's see if that happens. And he says, the dancing started to end around the early 90s. Music got more thuggish, and dudes became too cool to dance unless it was a slow song. Okay, Slick Rick, I remember lots of ladies going out and huddling up together. Okay, and so yeah, so then you're kind of standing there and you want to try to get in there and like, no, I just want to dance with my friends. I remember lots of that. So different times from when Quincy was making those records. Very different times. Okay. This last one is going to get at what the end result of all this could be. Darn it, I closed my... Well, let me see if it's in my history. Okay. All right, this is from George Fraser. More Black history here. George Fraser wrote a book. I forgot how I got it. It's in a box somewhere. And I got it in the 80s or the 90s. Or I probably got it in the 90s. And it's called Success is in Our Race. And I was talking to someone about Kevin. And I was telling this woman, this friend, that he didn't really blow up until he started talking to the women and until he started addressing the women. And I said, you know, I don't know if that was a calculated decision by him, or he saw that he needed to go to that side of the gender line to try to reverse what was going on. But I said he might have realized as well that there's more money to be made over there. So George Fraser is a money guy. He's a Black investment guy, a Black wealth building guy. And I remember in this particular chapter in his book, he said that many corporations realized that if they started marketing to Black women, that they could increase their profits. So they made the conscious decision to start marketing more of their products and their wares to Black women, and they saw that their profits went up because they spend. Okay. Black Nerd Talk says, I'm willing to come on if you want me to. I have notes from this live stream. Okay, I'll drop the link so you can say a few words. Then I'm going to wrap up after the George Fraser clip. This is a short. It's a powerful one, and it talks about how things have changed for our community relative to other communities. and unfortunately where things may be going. And it's very, very different from the romantic lyrics sung in Quincy Jones's songs. So this is George Fraser, Fair Use, Fair Use. I think you guys have probably seen this on other channels. This short is called How Marriage Creates Wealth. And this is something I know that in my home, this piece was never talked about.
Biggest challenges Black people have for the next 100 years. The number one challenge is the existential crisis of the Black family. The existential crisis of the Black family. Marriage in our culture is down to 34%. When we were growing up, it was 85%. It's now down to 34%. 71% of our sisters are not married, 29% will never get married, 63% of our brothers are not married, 30% of them will never get married. There is no culture in the history of humankind that has risen to maximize their full human potential without family at the center of their culture. This only exists. This is an interesting but negative statistic. This phenomenon of the existential crisis of our family only exists among African American Black people. It does not exist on the continent or anywhere else in the diaspora. So there must be something in the water. We must fix this. It is a lot easier said than done because it is impacting our wealth. Quick statistics. For 350 years, household median income was dominated by white people. They were number one in this country. They no longer are number one, they're number three, and there's a reason for it. So who has the highest household median wealth in America? It's East Indians, $104,000 a year. What's the marriage rate in the East Indian culture? 94%. Two are working. Who's number two? Chinese Asians. Household median income, $110,000 a year. Marriage rate close to 70%. Number three are white people. Household median income, $88,000 a year. What's the marriage rate? Almost 50%. Down significantly. Number four are Hispanics. Household median income, $61,000 a year. Marriage rate close to 70%. We are at the bottom. Household median income, $55,000 a year. Marriage rate, 34%. And projected based on facts and statistics that if we do not fix this, because white folks ain't fixing this, our marriage rate will be in the low teens in the next 20 years. We must, this is an enormous challenge. That's a whole talk by itself on how do we fix it. It can be fixed, but we have to, first of all, understand that this is the problem. No one's talking about this problem.
Okay, so Black Nerd Talks, I'm going to drop the link. I'll hang on for another 10 minutes. But George Fraser, it's going to cause me to revisit this. At the beginning of 2024, I was interested in median household income, and basically what he said reflected this data set here, showing from in 2023, Asians in 2022 and 2023, Asians led in median household income. White non-Hispanics were second, Blacks were third, and Hispanics were fourth. But he disaggregated Indians and Southeast Asians. Okay, but either way, they're whipping everybody, even white people. And the other thing is that I did a stream, I think it was in 2024, based upon Patrick Bet-David's stats or should I say, highlighting Indian families and what Indian families are doing right. And so, shout out to Ray Alexander. Ray Alexander recommended that I do that. According to George Fraser, it's directly correlated to partnering and marital rates. So, I think that's something that's worth revisiting. But, and I don't know what those numbers were in the 80s when Quincy Jones was making love songs, but all of these things seem to be interrelated. Barry, you there?
Oh man, on live stream again. How are you?
Yes.
How
Good,
are you?
Number? Good. How are you?
Day by day, doing better. Day
by day.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. This is a really interesting live stream. It's really interesting. I've been kind of in a space of reflecting on R&B lately, and how it's gotten to where it is. I haven't really seen a lot of content really breaking it down. It's just really the same really kind of basic talking points of R&B is not doing well, and there's a culture shift. But I think there needs to be I think there can be a deeper conversation when it comes to it. I don't know what led to it, but I was thinking of something my wife said when we were first dating, where she jokingly sung the song "Take Me As I Am." And
who sung that?
By Mary J. Blige. Yeah. And I searched up the music video and I just decided to give it a watch, with the kind of more masculinist lens that we've been able to take in recent years. Yeah, that's a good point, hip hop. Yeah. And I was watching the music video and I was like, you know what? On one aspect, and I don't fault our sisters or our women for this, a lot of them kind of drank the Kool-Aid when it comes to negative stereotypes about us in media. But looking at it, I could see why it's, how would I word this? It's almost dogma for those stereotypes to be seen as true about us in the music video. So, for instance, in the music video, it's almost like when I watched it and I shared it with one of my friends who's come on my content, he's a therapist. And the way I shared it with two of my co-hosts. And one of the things I said is the music video is almost cartoonish in terms of negative black male stereotypes. Being a hobosexual, not hobosexual, as in, you're homeless, you're not doing anything. Your wife is doing all the work. You're just leaving her to take care of the kids as you just lay on the couch for reasons, I guess. What else is happening in the music video? A dark-skinned, good-looking black man is having dinner with Mary J. Blige, and for arbitrary reasons, he doesn't let her eat. He literally took her food menu away because, controlling, right? What else is that? And then he left her in that same restaurant when they're having dinner. He just spontaneously got up to talk to a lighter skinned woman with straight hair. And then she threw her and then, abused. So she threw her drink on him. So just really seeing those things was very interesting in terms of, like, why would I like music like this? And also, to my my wife now's point is like, why should I take you as you are? Like, what benefit is there in that? Shouldn't you have to work on yourself? So it's been really interesting thinking about how the music is, and even just like the pushback on, I don't know if you remember the music video and song by Destiny's Child, Cater to You. I remember that was a contentious song. No, I did not. I never met a woman who loved the song and who was singing it. I know a lot of men, I know a lot of brothers who are singing, but that was cater to him. Why would I do that?
Well, I'm not familiar with that one, but that one was about catering to the men.
Oh, exactly. Oh, I remember like my sister, my girlfriend at the time. I don't remember any of our sisters who said this is an amazing song. Why would I cater to him? Why would I take off his do-rag when he came home and bring him and massage his feet? Why would I take his, like, none of it. And if a woman did that when the music video came out, this is like early 2010s. She shouldn't talk about it. She shouldn't, vocalize I did this thing for him, because you're going against the sisterhood, and now you're being oppressed. whatever that means. I don't know how that happens, but yeah, it was I sung the song. I loved it. Every time it came up on the radio, I was enjoying it, and I definitely got some scowls for enjoying the song. So yeah, I just think about those things. I think for a lot of us men, kind of on what the young man was saying, I think that a lot of us, like, it's very costly leading up to a relationship, being in the relationship, and assuming the relationship ends, in terms of divorce and whatnot. And a lot of us don't like the deal, and that proliferates into things like the music videos and the R&B songs, right? It's just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to give you the sun and the moon, and the only thing I receive is like your smile and maybe the so-called gratification of your presence. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I was talking to a young man earlier today who wants to be a musician, and I told him that that's the artists who get signed and who get promoted. That's a lot of power, because you're ultimately going to shape how at least some people think. So if you start saying, if you start rapping or singing about no scrubs, or you start depicting men as abusers, and that men are oppressing women, then you're gonna start to reprogram whole demographics of people, and then it wouldn't be a surprise that people can't partner anymore. Or if you start saying that the things that once made women women and got us to this point are no longer important or no longer good, and they're bad, then it's no wonder that you're going to start to see the things you're seeing now. So the people in media, the entertainers, unfortunately, they all have a lot of power. And if they don't wield it the right way, that will help everybody else, then they can destroy everything.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I was thinking, just watching the video that you're saying with the young man, and I think in the DMV, it just made me think of, it's been talked about, but I think it's going to take some time before we ever see it, implemented societally, is the fact that, modern problems need modern solutions. It makes me think of, I can't remember where, but I believe it was in Latin America, where the man was getting divorced from his wife. And, a lot of the court systems is not in his men's favors. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it was in Latin America. And so what he ended up doing to be able to see his child is he's changed his gender to a woman to be able to see his child.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I saw it. I think it was in Toronto. We have a thing called Six Buzz, where it's like they post a lot of what's going on in Toronto and sometimes internationally. And I was like, yeah. And then someone wrote, modern problems need modern solutions. A lot of women would get a lot of headway if they actually approached men. In fact, the reason I'm married today is because my wife made the first move. For myself, because I was dealing with especially since I was dealing with a false allegation, going back on, the dangers of approaching women.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to approach women, right? I was just being very professional with her. She was the one who made the first move. And I said, oh, you're interested. A lot of women will get a lot of mileage. However, it's a lot harder. Women, due to higher levels of neuroticism and the ocean test and everything, have a higher sense of, they struggle more when it comes to rejection. But
there's that, and also wanting to be modern, but also wanting to keep elements of what was traditional.
Yep.
So I say, if we're equal, then let's be equal. And
agreed.
I suspect, there's a chance that said woman would get rejected, but I think most men will be happy with, oh, she said something, she's interested, so okay. Well, Barry, do you have anything else? I need to make some dinner and get ready to go back in the office tomorrow.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess the last thing I would just say is just really thinking about, like, growing up, I never really liked R&B music.
You didn't?
I didn't. It's like I said, I've just been thinking about this a lot lately. I've always been like what we like to say here in Toronto is a Caribbean slang is love a man. I always, was hopeless romantic, as we would say. But for some reason, I never understood why I never resonated with R&B music until, like I said, I started reflecting. Sorry, you're about to say that.
Which generation are you?
Millennial.
Okay.
35.
35. So that means you missed the 80s. So that means you were exposed to all the Jodeci,
Destiny's Child, but
Destiny's
also
Child. I can't think of their names. TLC.
Well, the funny thing is, so my sister is, I think, like, she's 81. She's born 1981, and
okay.
my dad is a music head, and
yes.
very Pan-African. So I actually heard music from all eras around the world, and I just, even with like some of them getting into more like South African music, Caribbean music, so on and so forth, but R&B music I never resonated with until like I said, with the last couple weeks, I was like, why? And I was thinking about, like, it's because my reality never matched what was going on in the music. So I'm hearing how I'm supposed to, give her the sun and the moon, but the guy she's with can barely pay his rent. Like, whatever I'm hearing in music videos was not matching what the girls and women are seeing date. And I think that's what played a role in terms of it not resonating with me. I'm like, why would I do this? It's not adding up, because the guys that they're with are gangsters or drug dealers. And yet in the music, in the songs, I'm being told to give her a back rub when she comes home from work.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. What you were seeing on the ground was a lot different than what was being described in the music.
Yeah.
And that relates to what Passport OG said when he was here about, being told to do the right things, but the results of doing those right things differed from what we were told they would be. Yeah. All right, Barry, thank you. I'm going to look at some of your stuff, man. And we have to collab.
I was actually ready to, because I've finished a lot of my content I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I'm actually gearing up for more content creation. So I was actually like, when I start creating, like, doing more recordings, I was actually going to reach out to you very soon via email and everything to learn about live streaming. And I think it's about time. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a bunch of breads in the oven here, man. So it's finding time for everything. But yeah, let's collab soon. And if you have questions in the meantime, definitely hit me up.
For sure.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Enjoy your meal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. You take care, Dr. Dunbar.
Yep. All right, everyone. I'm going to wrap the stream up. And again, for those critics who say you're telling people what to do, you're giving dating advice, blah, 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 blah. How did the Charlie Brown teacher go? Wah, 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 wah. Yeah, no, I'm just giving commentary on what's happening today. So I'm tempted to play the George Fraser clip again, but the George Fraser clip is in the description box below. And I'll probably, now that I'm seeing the connection between it and the median household income, values, and the connection to what Asian families are doing right that everybody else is doing wrong, I will revisit that. Anyway, everybody, enjoy the rest of Black History Month. I think there are 2 days left. Really, really quickly, if you're watching this and you want a signed copy of my book, The Engineers of Western New York Basketball Story, I am selling signed copies on my online store. For my viewers here, I'm selling the hardcover. That light is bright. The hardcover for $25 and the paperback for $22. Just use one of those payment methods there in the ticker and send me your mailing address. And the book is going for $35 on Amazon, and it's going for $27 on Amazon, the hardcover and the paperback respectively. and the ebook is available there as well. I'm gonna work on the creating some sort of audio form of the book as well in the next month. But as I told Barry, I have breads in several different ovens. Okay, everyone, please, thank you for those of you who hung out in the chat. This wasn't a blockbuster topic, but I thought it would make a nice thought piece as we close this month out. So please like, share, and subscribe. And the links to all my stuff are in the description box below. My next interview will be with Ron Wills on December, on March 11th. And then I'm going to try to track Aaron Clary down because I'm going to be done with his book probably in the next 2 weeks. All right, everyone. If you're watching this on the playback and you have comments on any of this, let me know in the comments section below. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Hey, and even though Ray Charles said the opposite, Dr. Dunbar saying, be careful with your credit cards. Be careful with running up your balances, and be careful with overspending. Ray's heart was in a good place, but be careful with your credit cards and your spending. All right, everyone, have a good night. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.